This Impact Wrestling review was brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Try it, and this time it won't be another couple of months before we see the X Division on the show again. As I watched Impact this week, I really started to wonder how the 2-hour time limit and the compressed taping schedule they have right now are affecting things, because the more I saw, the more I felt like some of this stuff should have happened last week, some of it should have happened next week, and some stuff just needed more time and attention devoted to it. The result being that a bunch of segments here felt kind of awkward, ill-timed, maybe not coming off as well as they could have or should have. Wasn't a bad show, really, but at certain points I found myself thinking, man, that should have come off better than it did. Like this Samuel Shaw character, for example. Sam Shaw finally debuts with his new disturbed artist / American Psycho gimmick, but he comes out cold, with no pre-match promo, no hype videos, no nothing. He has a match, and that's it. That's problem number one. Another problem is his music. He's still using that completely generic stock theme song he had before. And with his new gimmick, it doesn't fit him at all. It's terrible. Then there's his wrestling. Now, when I looked at Sam Shaw from Gut Check and his subsequent matches on the show, I saw a guy who looked like a pretty solid wrestler. He's got a lot of energy, he's athletic, he works hard, he's got some crowd-pleasing moves, and he seems to be a likable guy. But in terms of personality, he's a blank slate. And now it's kind of been reversed. I mean, now he's got an interesting character to build on, but his wrestling doesn't seem to click. I mean, now he's being really slow and methodical, all the crowd-pleasing spots are gone, and I really question whether that style works for him. I mean, that's the kind of style you'd expect someone like Bully Ray to work, not an X Division guy. Now, obviously, with this character, he couldn't work the exact same way he did before. That wouldn't make sense. But this felt kind of awkward, if I'm being honest. Maybe if he was out there with Manic or Kenny King, someone he could have a real match with instead of just squashing Norv Furnham in 90 seconds, he might have been able to get this over somewhat. I mean, you want to make him look strong, fine, but it would be nice if he could have an exciting match on top of that. You can do both, you know. Now, they did give him a story to work with that they were pushing here. This thing with Christy Hemme. That's something. Unfortunately, the only setup we had for that was 2 pretty short vignettes that aired weeks ago. And we haven't heard a peep about that since then. If you're a casual fan, you probably forgot all about that. They made no effort to remind us. It wasn't played up prior to his debut, so when they tried to incorporate it into this match, it didn't get a reaction. And I wasn't surprised. Now, granted, getting a reaction out of the Universal Studios fans has got to be like pulling teeth these days, but I think TNA did Shaw a disservice by putting him in a situation that hinges on the audience caring about the angle with Christy Hemme and then not highlighting the angle enough for any of those people to think it was important. It was only his first night, maybe they'll work the kinks out later on, but it kind of felt like TNA didn't cover all their bases with this debut. Austin Aries and Chris Sabin had their X Division title rematch, and thanks to Sabin convincing Velvet Sky to cause a distraction for him, he wins the belt back. I really wish this match had gone longer. We see the X Division so infrequently right now, it would be nice if they could allocate a little more time to a title match than this. Not a bad match, though it still feels like they're holding back. We know these guys can blow the roof off if you just let them go. They did it last summer, but they're not really getting that chance. Still, pretty good for the time they gave it, although the finish was really stupid. Aries just about has the match won, but he stops what he's doing because Velvet gets on the ring apron like 10 feet away? Why? Whatever he was about to do, she couldn't stop him, so he just walks over to Velvet, Sabin low blows him and gets the pin just like that? That was staged really lazily. And Sabin's post-match celebration was funny, but this finish made Aries look like an idiot. And that's especially frustrating since I think this was the first time we've even seen him on Impact since he won the title weeks ago.
This whole show is ridiculous!
That being the case, the real crux of this has got to be the Velvet Sky angle, which I'm still questioning the execution of. It's made Sabin look like a dick who's using his girlfriend underhandedly, but Velvet has been really static so far and really hasn't been progressing as he has. Yeah, right now she's coming off like a total doormat, and that really doesn't track with how she behaved before this storyline. So if the purpose here is to get people to sympathize with Velvet and rally behind her, I don't know if it's succeeding. Obviously, there's still more that's going to happen here, but up until now, it's been Velvet thinks everything is fine, then Sabin does something heelish, and Velvet seems upset about it at the time, but then the next week she doesn't act any differently. So hopefully this will be what causes something to change with her, because if not, then I don't think there was any point in doing this. I'm still not ruling out a heel turn for her, and I hope that happens because Velvet staying a babyface seems less credible the longer this goes on. This Bully Ray Joseph Park segment really didn't work. The match never starts, Bully causes a DQ, he pours lighter fluid on Joseph and teases that he's about to commit murder by immolation, then Anderson comes out and he teases the same thing with him before just walking away. You know, if you're going to go this route, you have to approach it differently than you do other things. This is an angle where you really needed to put special focus on building tension, creating some genuine drama and atmosphere and suspense, which is really not one of TNA's stronger points. Tenay and Taz are still talking over the whole damn thing, underselling it, not acting any different than they do normally, and the segment ended so fast it was as if nothing really noteworthy happened here at all. It was like, well, fire averted. Now, on to the Magnus coronation. I mean, for Christ's sake, a man just tried to light another man on fire. Can we talk about that for a minute, please? This is a really serious, potentially horrifying thing that just happened. You need to treat it with a certain amount of gravitas, but you're acting like it's just an everyday occurrence. So why should we be disturbed or scared then? I'm sorry, but for what they were trying to do here, this did not work whatsoever. This whole segment felt completely half-assed.
I will not participate in this charade this evening.
Gail Kim had another open challenge, but instead of prospective new knockouts from outside the company, which is what this damn thing was supposed to be for, Madison fucking Rayne shows up. She beats Gail, apparently earning herself a title match, and I was so uninterested I didn't even care enough to look at the screen. Sign some new knockouts! That was the problematic stuff this week. The rest of the show was a different story. The Bobby Roode-Kurt Angle feud is still great. They have another really good exchange in the opening segment to set up one more match at Genesis with a lot on the line. You have to figure that's where Kurt Angle will finally go over, but his contract is up this summer, so who knows. I love how this storyline has presented Bobby Roode. He's the aggressor here, he looks like a badass, and I can really believe that he's pushed Kurt Angle to the point where Angle's getting reckless now and starting to take risks that he really shouldn't be taking just to prove that he's still got it. I think it's way too soon to be doing another cage match, but it does make sense for these two guys to do it at least. This sets up the tag team match for later on very nicely, which progressed the James Storm and Gunner feud as well. Really cool to see a Beer Money reunion for one night. That was a lot of fun. I wish they could have played that up more, but I guess they couldn't since they hadn't pulled the trigger on Storm yet, if the plan is to turn him all the way heel, and that may or may not be the case. Nevertheless, a good tag match, it advanced two storylines, no complaints here. Every minute, every hour, every day, all week long, all I'm hearing is questions, questions, questions. What's your big announcement? When are you going to make it? Can't you make it now? Is it about the new owner? Who is the new owner? When will the new owner show up? When will the sale be official? Yap, yap, yap. My Twitter page just blowing up about this, interrupting me at all hours of the day and night. You people are taking all the fun out of this. I am not here to please the masses. I thought you would have figured that out by now. So you know what? If you're so dead set on interrupting me, then maybe I don't want to make my big announcement anymore. Rest assured, the announcement about the new owner of this YouTube channel is coming. But it will be made when I want. Until then, you jackasses are just gonna have to wait. Hashtag 4D. I gotta say, Ethan Carter III is quickly becoming one of my favorite people to watch. He has this hilarious promo where he's making fun of Jeff Hardy for quitting last week, which made me laugh. And then he challenges Jeff to a match, and of course Hardy is nowhere to be seen. Because even though EC3 was giving him a rare opportunity, the likes of which very few people in the wrestling business ever get, the honor and the privilege of being in the same ring with wrestling's greatest hero, he knew that he simply stood no chance against the unstoppable, undefeated force of nature that is EC3. So, instead he decided to disrespect EC3, waste everybody's time, and not even show up. What a coward. How can you even look yourself in the mirror, Jeff Hardy?
How dare you!
So then Sting comes out, and he goads EC3 into accepting a match at Genesis where these guys will finally go one-on-one, and this was really good. I wasn't totally buying it when Sting was doing stuff like putting his job on the line just to get a match with this guy, but here you just had him act like a savvy veteran taking advantage of a rookie's insecurities, and the whole thing fit a lot better. Now the match works. And this whole segment worked great, too. It got over really well. The EC3 character is catching on with the crowd. They built him up enough to the point where the fans really want to see him get his ass kicked, and I definitely think that should continue. He absolutely needs to go over Sting at Genesis, and I don't even care how it happens. This character has been such a success, they'd be idiots to stop his momentum now. I think they should carry on his undefeated streak for at least another couple of months.
Yes! 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 Yes!
You knew they must be really serious about this Magnus title reign when they devoted pretty much the last half hour of the show to this coronation segment. And this had the potential to drag really badly if they weren't careful, but it turned out really well actually. You have Rockstar Spud and EC3 introducing it, they cut some entertaining promos, and these guys are starting to generate some real heat. That's very encouraging. So Magnus is finally introduced, and he talks for a while, he cuts a great promo, his first real promo as the champion, and he came off great here. You know, regardless of what some people may think about him, is he ready, is he not ready, one thing you can't deny is that Magnus carries himself like a top star. He's got that natural poise and a presence that you just don't see in a lot of other people. The guy looks and feels like a world champion should. And even though the verbiage they gave him here was a little generic, the fans turned on me, blah blah blah, he still made it work. He has really good performance instincts, and that's going to take him a long way.
And that's the fishing line, 'cause Shark Boy said so.
I do think the segment went off the rails a little bit when Gunner showed up, though. I'm really hoping James Storm ends up with that world title briefcase because I'm not ready to roll with Gunner as a world title contender yet, and I don't think a lot of people are. I appreciate that TNA are trying to raise his status, but I'd want them to get his character more over before they put him in a situation like this. And he looked kinda stupid and hot-headed, wanting his title match when he'd already wrestled that night, and Magnus would be the fresher man. And I don't necessarily think the crowd got behind him that much when the heels triple-teamed him. Points for trying to elevate a new guy, though. Then AJ Styles made his triumphant return, and this is where I have to take issue with this. Because the rest of this segment was not bad. It was actually really good, minus Tenay and Taz talking over way too much of it as fucking usual, but I felt like they gave away way too much here. And first, AJ shows up, and then he takes out the heels, and then he makes it clear that he's the real world champion, and then he challenges Magnus, and then Magnus gets Dixie to give AJ a contract for one night, and then they make the match because there's two world champions and there should only be one world champion, and it's like, oh my god, slow down, slow down. And for the record, Punk, Cena, Magnus, AJ, Cena, Orton, I don't know who the hell's copying who anymore, which storyline is borrowing from which, and I really don't care. You just have to judge this on its own merits, and I think it turned out really well. I just wish they hadn't done so much of it all at once. In my opinion, this should have played out over at least 2 weeks. The heels beat down Gunner. AJ appears in the crowd. The heels see him. They're shocked. He holds up the world title. There's your cliffhanger. Cut to black. Instead, they pass right by the most dramatic moment to end on, and then they just keep going and going for like another 5 or 10 minutes. The next thing you know, we've got a huge title unification match booked for next week instead of Genesis, which is the week after that.
What the fuck?
My guess is that they had to rush this because they only had AJ contracted for 2 more dates or something like that. I don't know. Beats the hell out of me why they wouldn't wait to do this at Genesis, or what the world title match on that show is even going to be now. Maybe they'll hotshot Magnus versus Samoa Joe or something, who knows. At any rate, too much too fast? Yeah, but at least it was done well. AJ had a good night promo-wise. I like that Magnus didn't turn chicken shit like so many other heels do. He didn't back down from the challenge. Instead, he rose to it. He decided to man up and prove to AJ that he's the real world champion. And I loved that he was the one that convinced Dixie to make the match by threatening to quit himself if she didn't. When he said that, you're like, whoa, man, shit just got real. That was a great, great touch. They established in one segment that this really means everything to both guys. So even though I do wish this had been drawn out more, they still did what they needed to do and hyped up a really huge match for next week. This was another flawed episode. They did do some good things, and actually some really good things, but you can definitely tell that the taping schedule and in some ways the 2-hour time limit are affecting the quality of the show. They're not going to make any real progress this way. If they want to get back to where they used to be, or improve on that, God forbid, the quality needs to go up. And they need to start paying more attention to the little details, which they really can't do when they're taping 3 or 4 episodes all at once. I know there's only so much they can do about that, but I hope they can at least get back to filming 1 episode a night sooner than later. Happy 2014, everyone. See you next time.